Caesar Capital. Hope you're well. It's the 9th of November 2023. We're just going to do a quick update on Bitcoin. So looking at the Bitcoin chart on the weekly and Coinbase chart, you've probably seen this chart a few times now. If you've watched my last videos, we've covered it quite a lot. But for those who haven't, Bitcoin has essentially over a very long period of time printed an inverse head and shoulders. An inverse head and shoulders is the opposite to a head and shoulders. A head and shoulders pattern, of course, is bearish, whereas an inverse head and shoulders is bullish. You can see that the left shoulder was printed around about 6th of June 22. The head was printed in the cycle, the 4-year cycle low in November 22, and in the right shoulder was printed towards the end of February, beginning of March. This is, as I say, a bullish pattern, and once the price breaks the neckline of the head and shoulders, then the traders will say to themselves, right, well, what's the measured move on this? And the way that you can measure that move is basically by measuring from the neckline down to the head, taking that measurement and sticking it on top of the neckline. That gives you your basic measured move. And the basic measured move at the moment for the bulls is around about this area of 41K, which incidentally is the 618, and it's close to the 618. The 618 is sitting at 39,155. The next target after that is the 786, and that is technically another measured move, but that's a video for another day. But essentially, there seem to be two targets. One, the 618, which was around about 39.40K, and the second one of 50K. Bitcoin was up pretty good today, steaming along, up about 5 or 6%, but it's lost a little bit of steam here, but not a huge amount to worry about. But the thing is what everybody is thinking about at the moment and asking people like myself is, you know, what's going to come first before a big correction? What's going to come first? Is it going to be 40K or is it going to be 50K? And the answer to that is, I don't know what comes first, okay? But what I do know is that there will be a correction, okay? Nothing goes up in a straight line. There is going to be a correction at some point, okay? But I don't know when that's going to come. But all I can say is there seem to be two technical targets. One around this area, which technically Bitcoin is getting very close to being met or has met. And then there's this next target up here of around about 50K. Now, if we get an ETF approval today, tomorrow, next week, then I think that might give the price the boost it needs to get up to this 50K mark. And then I think once we get to that 50K mark, there's going to have to be some form of correction. Okay. We'll talk about how deep that correction will be in a moment, but there's going to have to be some form of correction. And that correction, in my view, comes either here at the 618 or thereabouts, or here at the 786 or thereabouts. As you know, nothing goes up in a straight line. Everybody thinks things go up in a straight line when they're going up, but unfortunately, that is not the case. The markets move in waves. Now, what I'm quite confident about is this. Down below at around about 31K mark, we've got this kind of area that used to be resistance, but now we're assuming and we hope it's support. But this was an area of which was resistance to Bitcoin for a considerable amount of time, 30 weeks. Okay, so over 6 months, almost 7 months. Of resistance. So it was a heavy resistance. Bitcoin just couldn't break it. You know, it came up here, didn't it, in April? No, sorry, thank you very much. Came up again in June. No. Tried it again in July. No. Tried it again in sort of towards the end of July. No. Came back down, and then it finally broke out. Okay, and that was, you know, like 7 months. Okay, 6 or 7 months before it could do that. So to me, I'm thinking this was once an area of significant resistance. Okay, now we can only assume and we hope that this area of which was once really heavy resistance will become really good, strong support for Bitcoin when it does come down for that correction. Now, whether Bitcoin gets up here at 40K or up here at 50K, in my view, at some point in the future, Bitcoin is going to come down and come close to testing this area of support. Okay, and in my view, this area should hold as support. Okay, and that'd be super bullish if Bitcoin could hold this area as support. So what I'm thinking is this, and I'll say it again, whether we come up to 40K or that's it now for Bitcoin, it's, you know, it's made its move and it's going to come back down to 30K, or whether we go up to 50K, whatever happens, in my view, we're going to come back down here to test this area to make sure it's support. Okay, so either we come up to 40K, we come down, we test this area of support, or we go up to 50K, then we come down and test it for support. Okay, now that's not a deep correction for Bitcoin. Okay, if it were to do it from this kind of area back down to 30, it's a 20% correction, which is quite normal for Bitcoin. Very, very normal correction for Bitcoin. That would be a little bit deeper, 37% correction. But again, you know, that's not unheard of at all for Bitcoin. Bitcoin's quite a volatile asset, short term. So, you know, that wouldn't be off the cards. So it'll be quite interesting to see what happens. But what I'm fairly confident of is this area of 31K is going to be tested at some point or close to it. Okay, maybe it might be above, maybe it might be 32K, 31.5, but it's going to be tested, because what you've got to remember is when Bitcoin found its low and everybody and their grandmother was saying, oh, we're going to 10K, we're going to 6K, and then Bitcoin came up. Okay, and then it came up to sort of 25K. Then they were waiting for, you know, like 19K. Okay, 19K didn't really come for them. So then when Bitcoin came up to 30K, then they were waiting for 25K. It came down. Some got the 25K, some didn't. But my point is this, is that a lot of people are sidelined at the moment. There are lots and lots of people sidelined waiting. Okay, and they are probably not going to be interested in taking position now in Bitcoin. If they've got half a brain, they'll probably be waiting for this area here around about 31, 32K. So I think there's going to be heavy, strong support there. And of course, this held as support back in February 21, back in May 21, June 21, July 21, all around here. Finally broke down though in May 22. So you had this area of support here as well. So this has got to be an area of which we can assume there will be some serious and heavy support in that area. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, whether Bitcoin gets up to 40K, then corrects, or 50K and then corrects. But what's quite interesting is when thinking about the 786, okay, which is sitting at 50K at the moment or thereabouts, is historically Bitcoin has always reached out to the 786 prior to every Bitcoin halving in the past. Okay, so in the last two cycles, it's done it. So you can see if we go back, excuse me, in time, we had the high back in November 2013. Then Bitcoin came down to find its low. Let's make this a bit more larger so you could see it. So we had the high in November 2013. Bitcoin came down for its low in January 15. Then it did its usual sort of corrective move to the upside, where there was, an accumulation phase, and then it started moving to the upside. Now, what Bitcoin did do was it reached out to the 786 just prior to the halving. About a month before the halving, Bitcoin reached out to that 786 area. So that was the first. That was the cycle coming out the first halving. Okay. The cycle come out of the second halving, Bitcoin actually reached out to the 786. You can see it here. I remember this well. It was about 14 or 13.5K or thereabouts, quite early. So you can see the low comes in December 18, then it starts moving up. And there's this really hardcore parabolic move to the upside, which happened over the kind of spring and summer of 2019. And then it peaked out at the 786. And the 786, in fact, on that occasion was quite far away from the halving. Obviously, we are in time, considering the cycle in time, we are further ahead now in this this cycle. We're kind of here, aren't we? But what's interesting and what we can take from the past data is that Bitcoin has always in the past reached out to the 786 prior to the Bitcoin halving. Bitcoin halving here, 786 there, 786 there, Bitcoin halving here. So First time it did it very close to the halving. Second time it did it almost a year before the halving. In my view, I think this cycle is more in tune or similar to the 2015 cycle, but hey, every cycle is going to be different. But in my view, I think the 2015 this cycle is a little bit more closer than the 2015 cycle. So it'd be quite interesting to see what happens. But the past data indicates to us basically that Bitcoin in the past has done this. So it's quite likely that Bitcoin might do it again. So it will reach out to the 786 prior to the halving. And of course, the 786 is up there at 50K. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But as I said at the beginning of this video, if Bitcoin gets an ETF approval in the next few weeks, then I think that's going to give it the rocket fuel to get itself up there. But I kid you not, there will be a steep correction. And if it reaches right out to the 50K mark, there could well be a steep correction down towards this area of 31K, which is obviously quite deep, and it's going to scare a lot of people. But that's just what Bitcoin does. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope you're well. If you want to join the group, please reach out to me via the website. Go and have a look at the website. You can equally reach out to me on Twitter. Both ways you'll be responded to within a few hours or so, probably less. But if you're interested in joining the group, please drop us a DM and we will get you into the group as soon as we can. Okay, hope you enjoyed the video. Take care, and I shall speak to you all soon. Thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye.